Wow.
Just as we get on camera, yep, as Scott John says from the floor, forgot to put his stop on like they do in Magic Online.
Absolutely. Now, this is a really key moment because you look at that face, that is a man who is not happy with himself and not happy with life. But this is where you have to put that behind you. It's one moment, it's one upkeep. Now, Nico Herzog, is the time you need to buckle down.
Yep.
And you got to wonder...
Don't do that. Don't put your head in your hands. What are you doing, man?
You got to wonder if Marcio Carvalho didn't ask him what the card was on top to sort of put him off the train of thinking that he needed to hit it in his upkeep. And, of course... Nikolai Herzog, and this is something a lot of pros do, not taking advantage of a recent rule change that allows you to put a counter on top of your deck in order to help you remember things like that during your upkeep. We can see on screen he's got a bunch of red counters off to the left where our viewers out here in the audience are seeing the life totals. All he had to do was put one of those on top, and it would help him remind him that he needs to hit that in the upkeep. And the card that we're looking for that's on the other side of Marcio Carvalho's board, which got the Lignify, is Leaf Crowned Elder, and of course that's the 3/5 Tree Folk Shaman from Morningtide. It has kinship, and at the beginning of your upkeep you can look at the top card of your library. If that card shares a creature type with the Leaf Crowned Elder, you can reveal it and then play it without without paying its mana cost.
Yeah, I mean everyone likes free stuff, but Leaf Crowned Elder doesn't just give you free stuff; it gives you Ferraris and Porsches sometimes.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so Nico comes in. Scott Johns makes the point very correctly that we talked with Nico about, where do great players go under pressure. Well, pressure is what happens when you make a mistake like that. What looks like an elementary mistake, that's what people do at F&M.
Yeah.
Upkeep, I drew my card, never mind, and yet... you have to come back from it, and he's done it enough times, because I'm sure he made mistakes in 2004, because the perfect Magic player hasn't been born yet.
No, not yet. And it's important for folks watching at home who are going to think, hey, that guy just made a mistake, I bet I could beat him in matches. You might on a good day, but this is one of the top players in the game, and everyone makes mistakes occasionally, so that doesn't diminish his accomplishments or take away the fact that he's a very solid player.
It certainly doesn't. Now, we've got a little glimpse of Marcio's hand there. That looks like a Weed Poplar Shaman. Coming out. So in his upkeep, that's going to give -1/-1 to something.
You're talking about the creature Marcio just played?
Yeah, up at the top there.
Looks like a Black Poplar Shaman.
Oh, it's Black Poplar. Okay,
yeah,
so it's the regenerator.
Yep,
fair enough.
That's the one that will allow him to get his creatures through combat pretty significantly. Earlier in the day, actually, I was speaking with Jacob Van Loenen, Chris Lockman, and Alex Kim, who's a young American pro. Alex Kim, I told him that I'd buy him lunch if he could tell me whether the tree folk from the Lorwyn block are coniferous or deciduous. He thought about it for a moment, and he said, "Isn't Black Poplar Shaman eating someone in the picture? I got to say they're carnivorous." I said,
okay.
"Alex, that's not what we were talking about."
Yeah, I like you mentioned Alex Kim there. I was very excited yesterday. A guy came up to me and said, "Have you got the standings?" And it turned out to be someone called Cynic Kim, who is the Korean guy. And I frankly assumed that he didn't really exist. It was just like a name that Wizards put into every tournament, just to mention, Cynic Kim, the Korean. I'd never seen him play, never heard him, didn't know what he looked like. And he came out, it's like, hey, wow, you actually exist. That's really cool.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a combat step here. It's going to get bogged down with Nikolai Herzog's Briarhorn Elemental, of course. That's going to giant growth one of his creatures. And it's going to prove for an interesting combat step for Marcio Carvalho there. He's got some things to think about, especially with that Death Touch, the Thorntooth Witch blocking one of those tokens. Oh, wow. What a counter. He's going to counter with his own Briarhorn Elemental to save his Thorntooth Witch, and that's going to really decimate Nikolai Herzog's board there. He gets to keep his Winnower Patrol and the Briarhorn Elemental with the Skeletal Changeling, but loses a bunch of his tokens.
So there you see the scores still tied at 1-1. Herzog on 20, Carvalho at 9. No sign yet that Herzog's missing upkeep is going to cost him, but we shall see.
Yep. Especially, there's the Weed Pruner.
There is the Weed.
Yep.
Okay, so that's going to do -1/-1 somewhere along the line.
Yep, and in the meanwhile, it's the Thorntooth Witch is going to take out one of Nikolai's creatures. Looks like it's going to hit the Briarhorn Elemental. That's the tree folk that Marcio's working on here are really going to turn things back around in his favor, and it looks like with just 4 land, Nico's sitting on an uphill climb here.
Yeah, shakes his head. Herzog now at 16.
Interesting fact about Nikolai Herzog. Just picked up a new job translating English television into Norwegian and doing some work for the National Geographic.
Wow. Now, that's one of those jobs that I suppose must exist theoretically, but you never expect to meet the guy who does it.
Yeah.
It's like the guy who puts the road cones out. I mean, where do they all come from? I don't think that's a Magic player, though. I'm only guessing.
Yeah. Woodland Changeling comes down for
Oh,
Nico.
how that is the killer. Nameless Inversion. That, because it's a shapeshifter, triggers the Thornscale Wave. That is such a beating.
Yep.
Yes.
Deary me.
Allows him to
Nice
two.
roll again.
You can hear Nico there. It allows him to 2 for 2 with his opponent. Unfortunately, he's not going to get the 2 for 1 because he already had to trade the Briarhorn Elemental in order to deal some damage.
Not happy with that at all. At all.
Nico's going to try for a Spring Cleaning, targeting the Oblivion Ring. He's going to whiff on the Clash, which
So he gets
doesn't concern him that much.
he gets his
I
Imperious.
killed the imperfect. You lose all creatures.
But Marcy's saying, "Hey, just want to let you know you're dead. Is that okay? You dead? I think you're dead."
Yep.
And Nico says, all right, I'm dead. All right, so that is 2-1 to Marcio Carvalho. Now, his best year was 2005. He was the winner of Grand Prix Lisbon on home soil, and he really likes Portugal because he also made top 8 in 2002 there, and locally he's made a GP top 8 in Bilbao, so 4 total there. And again, in 2005, for those of you who go back that long, not that long ago really, Katsuhiro Mori won Worlds that year. Marcio Carvalho was there in the top 8. He finished 5th. There, so that's kind of his resume. As far as this tournament goes, he opened up like Finkel did with a 2-1 opening pod, so that was fine. His back was never really against the wall, to be fair. He then makes a 3-0 pod, so at 5-1, nice and middle of the pack going into the third draft of Friday. He goes 2-1 again to get to 7-2, and then once again at the back end of the tournament. So when you're sitting at 7-2, you're playing against other people who really know what they're doing, and he aces that pod, and from 10-2, only 1-1 needed to be here on Super Sunday. Not a problem.
Yep.
As for Nico, pretty much similar record, although he needed a little bit more effort at the back end of the tournament, not least because he actually played in feature match action John Finkel, and that turned out to be a pretty epic match. And Herzog, you see there, he's talking to himself, he's not happy with himself, but he's 2 games away from the semi-final, and that's more than pretty much anyone else on Earth right now. Yep. So he's got to refocus himself. We say it again, and it feels odd to be talking about a Hall of Famer in those terms of letting mistakes get to you, because, you know, I've had a lot more experience than he has at making mistakes. I guess perhaps I'm just better at getting over them.
Yeah, I'm sure Nico will pull it together. It's the type of level pro that doesn't allow that type of thing to really disrupt them. And you're talking about Marcio Carvalho's accomplishments. You got to point out that he's one of those pros who people might not recognize at home, but is a consistent finisher. He's not the type of player you want to have to sit across from because you know he's going to give you a challenge. And because of his quiet nature, and he sort of doesn't really make big of himself, doesn't do much writing that I'm familiar with, people kind of aren't familiar with him, and it's a little bit unfair to him because he's actually a very solid and consistent player.
All right. What's going on in there?
Looks like they're...
What is going on there? All right, well, we've got news from Scott Johns down on the floor that Ming Shi has taken a 2-1 lead in his match against Joe Calico. He was 1-0 down, but is now 2-1 to the good. And it turns out there, that was a Drowner of Secrets game, and the Drowners just got there. Ming Shi absolutely on the point of collapse. Next turn, he was dead, but unfortunately, there were 0 cards left in Joe Califel's library at that point. So Ming Shi moves to within 1 game of the semi-finals. Now remember that they are in the bottom bracket, already awaiting the winner of that one is Mario Pascoli of Italy, who aced Mike Rohn 3-0. Nonetheless, you've got to hand it to H-Ron. Back-to-back top 8s a year apart. That's outstanding.
Yeah, pretty impressive. Pretty impressive indeed.
I think you can be pretty certain that when we go and talk to Mike at lunchtime, we'll go, "Are you disappointed?" And he'll go, "Oh, well, it was okay."
Yeah, Micron, I think you could tell Micron he just won $5 million, and he'd just say, "Thanks, can I get it in cash?" You know, he just does not have any response on his face. We're starting to see a few smiles there from Nikolai Herzog off camera, and it looks like he's been able to shake off how he's feeling. Interesting to note, both of his parents are doctors and psychiatrists. I asked him if being psychiatrists had helped him gain any advantages in picking up mental reads on opponents and being able to read them, whether they'd been able to tutor him on that at all. He said, not really, so it would be interesting to see if maybe they gave him some stress release techniques. Although Nikolai Herzog is the type of